Hi everyone, I'm Nidia and this is a tutorial for Untitled Plus. Today I'm going to show you how to do this effect. So if you see it is being split apart. And so let's start. So first let's create a comp and call it main. This is fine. 4 seconds. We're going to have this size because it's the same size as the video that we're going to use. So now we need to import our file. I already have it here. This is the footage that I used on the preview, so I'm gonna show you how to do the effect on this one. So let's pre-comp it, and on our main comp, let's drag it. So here is the video that I filmed here in London and in a skate park. And one thing that is better when you're doing this kind of effect is to have stable camera, because it works better, the effect. So even mine is not perfect, it's a little bit shaky, but it's fine. So let's start by creating a layer, new adjustment layer. And what we're gonna do is we actually gonna use expressions and a slider. And so on the adjustment layer, I'm gonna rename it to slider. And on it, I'm gonna, in the effects control, I'm gonna right click, expression, slider. And I'm gonna change this to frames. And I'm gonna lock this. So what happens in the video is that this is split into a grid, and each part of the grid is time remapped. So it's shifted in time, and that's why we name these frames, because we're gonna shift it in frames. So we're gonna add some frames into each of the grid. So now that we have the slider, let's go and create the grid. You can actually do the grid here in After Effects, but I find it easier to actually come to Illustrator and just create a new document, select film, video and film, and now we're gonna select the same size that we use for our comp. It's gonna be this one. Okay. And now we just need the rectangle, and if you just click one time anywhere in the document, it will ask you for the size of it. So as I already done it before, it assumes the size, so just let's click OK. And we of course need it to be centered. And now the easy way, and that's why I use Illustrator, is that it's really quick to do a grid, is object, path, split into grid, because this way it's easier to create a uniform grid. So I'm just going to change this to 5x5, should be fine. And if we preview now, we have some space. That's because of the gutter. So we need to actually change this to 0 because we don't want any space in between. And now if we select all, Command A, and then we just need to copy this, so Command C, go back to After Effects, select our pre-comp and Command V. And now we just have all the masks that compose this grid. So now comes the fun part, the expression. So for it we need to use, as I said before, time remap, because we're gonna time remap it. So just with this, the comp selected, just press Command A T to enable time remapping. And now we're gonna alt click on the clock, the watch, and we're gonna write an expression. So as we logged this before, we it's because we're going to need this. And so let's start. First we're going to create a variable, so you can name it whatever you want. In this case I'm going to call it n_frames, because it's easier when you actually give the names of what they're supposed to mean, because this is going to be a small code, but if you start coding a lot, you need to have like the name so you know exactly what it is. So in this case it's number of frames, and the number of frames is going to be from the slider, and this is for so we have much more control over it. So we just need to pick whip it and put it on the slider. So this is going to get the number of frames, but the thing here is that time remap actually works in seconds. So what we need to do is we need to convert this, or the frames here, into seconds, and for that we just need to actually divide it by 25. So this part here is going to give us the number of frames, or in this case seconds, that we're going to click here. And now we just need to tell time remapping to get this this number of frames. So we want time remap to be equal to this comp, and this comp is main, so it's this thing, everything here, layer, and now index. Index means that it's gonna assume the index is the number of the layers, so it's gonna assume layer 2, and that's why we want the time wrapping for this. So we want the time wrap to be the time of this, so it's gonna be time map. So we want the timer map to be the timer mapping of this pre-comp plus the number of frames that we put on the slider. So we just need to put it here, and this is pretty much the expression. So again, this is a variable, so this will record or save, let's say, our number that we get it from the slider. And now we want the time remap to work as the timing of the comp itself plus the number of frames that we tell it to be. So, and as you see, nothing happens. That's because we need to create or to duplicate this pre-comp into 25, which is one for each of these parts of the grid. So first let's start by duplicating one time, and we just need to change the expression again. And the reason is because so far if we just duplicate it like this, it's kind of useless, because it's almost like having one, because if I change the slider, it changes on everything. And as we saw in the video, we wanted each one of them to have a different time remapping. So what we need to do is, here where it says index, we need to put -1. What this does is that it will gonna check as the index -1, so it's gonna be 3 minus 1, which is equal to 2. So it's gonna check the time on the layer before and add a number of frames. So which means that you're going to have a sequential time remapping. So if here is 0 and we're adding one more frame, we mean that this one is going to be one frame more, and this is going to be one frame more than the other one. And I have here an example that show that is that here in the slider I put 25 frames, which means 1 second, and in this video I put the number 1, where is 1 second, 2, where is 2 seconds, and 3, where is 3 seconds. So if I'm adding 25, means that here it's going to start at second 1, and because this is going to get the time from this, it's going to get first 1 second, so it's going to get the 1 second plus the number of frames that we have on the slider, which is 25, so 1 second, so you're going to go to the second 2, and so on, so on. So this one is going to get the time from this one and add another 1 second. And then they will play from that part. So this will start playing from 1 second, this is going to start playing from 2, and this is going to start playing from 3 seconds, as you can see. So back to our main comp. So what we need to do, as I said before, is that we need to duplicate this into 25 pre-comps, and as I already have 2, I need to duplicate it for 23, so let's do it. Yeah, so now we have more, actually. And so we have 26, which is 25 because this one doesn't count. And now that we need to do is we need to delete the masks that we don't want. So in this first one, we want this to be the mask, so it's mask 1. So we just need to go down, delete the rest, and here we go. And we need to do the same for everyone. So on this one, we want to be the mask 2, so just delete these ones, and there we go. Now we have this. And I already have a comp here that is that I already did all of this because it's the boring part. So now we have this one that I just did the same thing, and now we can see here we have all of them. So this. Sorry, this was already the final one. So now what we need to do is just use the slider. So let's say here, if I slide this, you can see it's already doing, and you can also go the other way around. You can see, so having a slider is very convenient. So you can just change the values, and you have it. For the example, what I did was I just keyframed it. So I wanted to start in 0, and when it's about, let's say here, I keyframe it, so it's gonna start splitting apart. The time is increasing, and then around here, I decrease it a little bit, just a little bit, and at the end, instead of having it split apart, I want it back together. So if we preview this now, as you can see, it's starting to it starts becoming more split apart because of the time the frames are increasing. And then as it starts coming here, it's going to go back to 0 frames difference between all of them. And this is it. So the only thing is that on the other ones it's the same principle, so we're just using the same thing, but instead of a grid, what I use on the other ones, as you can see here, is horizontal lines. So same thing. I also keyframed it because I wanted at the end to go back to 0 and to start from 0. And the other one was vertical lines. And you can basically use pretty much any shape because you're just using masks, so you can just create a triangles, grid, or circles. And yeah, pretty much that's it. We're done. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. This was my first one, so sorry for not explaining things properly. So Any feedback is welcome, and thank you so much for watching.